Tavian's World of Reptiles. I hope you're all doing well and taking care of yourselves. If this is your first time to my channel, please enjoy the rest of this video and maybe check out some of my other content. And if you like what you see, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and ding that bell so you get notified on future content. And if you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming again to listen to me ramble. But today, however, we actually have a serious conversation to have. We've got a serious situation that's happening over in Florida. Many of you have probably already heard this. It's been covered by just about every big name reptile keeper there is, and it's a very valid and very serious situation that's happening over in Florida. Now, if you want to know more about the actual bill that's being passed and deeper into that, you might want to check out some of those other videos, as I'm not going to be getting too deep into that. I don't really understand bills technically, and so I'm not going to be the best one to explain this to you, but I will give you the most layman's terms that I can in explaining what's happening and the importance of standing up and sending our support over to Florida to fight this bill. So over in Florida, essentially what is happening is they are passing a bill that is going to make it so that anybody who is in Florida right now that has a green iguana or a Tegu, and I think it's specifically the black and white Argentine Tegu. I could be wrong on that, check the facts, but iguana owners and Tegu owners all over Florida are at risk of having their rights taken away because of this bill. This bill would make it so that these animals are no longer legal to own. So if this bill passes, then everybody currently who has an iguana, who has a Tegu, will have to get rid and relinquish their animals. And that is itself is heartbreaking, and that's heartbreaking for all of us as a keeper. If we just think about the more emotional part of that alone, these people, they keep these animals because they love these animals and they appreciate these animals and they find beauty in these animals, and they love to share and that knowledge and educate people on these animals, and they put their heart and soul into these animals, and now they are at risk of losing it all. These animals that they love and that they cherish so much could be literally taken from them. And we all are probably sitting comfortable in our own environments right now thinking that's tragic, but that's got nothing to do with me. But it does. It has something to do with all of us. Just think about if you're just sitting home right now watching this video holding one of your reptiles, and somebody were to knock on the door and say, we need to take that animal away from you because it's no longer legal for you to have it, and we found out that you have one. And also, here's this huge fine and possibly even, who knows what, legal things that could happen to you because you now have this animal that's illegal. It would be tragic for you to suddenly lose your animal. So it is our problem to think about our families and our friend. Yes, we're all a part of this community, we're all family, so our family and our friends over there are at risk of losing their animals, and we're gonna have to watch that tragedy happen if we don't stand up, if we don't speak up, if we don't do what we can to help them. And you know what, I couldn't even imagine what that would be like. I'm sitting here in Oregon. Now, here in Oregon, it gets cold. It's pretty much cold, maybe about 80% of the year. Just a couple of months in the summertime when it gets nice and warm. But otherwise, it's cold here. Nothing tropical is really surviving here. And I think the overall thought process here in Oregon is just that if it can't survive here, it's good to go. Now, we've got some counties, of course, that are no large animals, that no large snakes. But overall, Oregon is just if it can't survive in our climate, it's good to go here. But this thing in Florida could change all of that. All it needs is for one bill like this to pass, and this is where it does affect us. This is where we can't sit here and say it's not our problem, because all it needs to happen is for this one bill to pass in this one place before other places start getting a hair to start doing the same thing. And it may be with those same animals, even if it will be illogical for those animals to become an invasive species where you live. They could still target those animals or target other animals that they feel could become an invasive species where you live, even if it wouldn't. And so it is important for us to actually pay attention to what is happening over there to avoid those things happening here and do our part to make sure that 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 doesn't happen. Now, I know there's a lot of big names that are going to that meeting. They're going to really be speaking on behalf of all those Tegu owners and all those Iguana owners, and really just kind of laying it in about why this bill is not going to be effective. Which, by the way, is a whole other thing. They are essentially passing this bill because they have a huge, and this is a very valid thing, they have a huge invasive species issue there. They've got Burmese pythons out of the wahoo. They've got iguanas all over the place, and they've got tegus in certain areas just taking over. Yes, iguanas and tegus and Burmese and all these things are super invasive, and that's just a few. Florida is just like such a wonderful zone for all these exotic animals that are not natural to the area to just thrive in, because it mimics their natural environment so well, which is super unfortunate, but it is the case. So they've got all those animals out there just doing their thing. And unfortunately, the issue that I have with all this, and especially with this bill, and I hope that there's going to be a lot of people there speaking on this, is that this bill does not change that. They're passing this bill to deal with the invasive species that they're having in the wild. But this bill is not going to affect that at all. It really isn't, because the fact of the matter is, and I've done some research on it, and I haven't been able to find much of anything to say otherwise, but there's not really been an invasive species of reptiles that has ever actually been eradicated. And even if you think outside of reptiles and other animals that have become invasive species in areas, the success rate of actually eradicating any invasive species is exceptionally low. I've not been able to find much of anything. There are a few somewhat winning-ish battles out there with some invasive species, but overall, it's not a winning battle. Once an invasive species has begun, it's begun, and there's nothing that can really be done about it. In my opinion, when it comes to reptile invasive species, it's a lost cause. It really is a lost cause. I don't think that there's going to ever be a point where they are not going to have these animals being invasive in the area. At this point, those animals are quickly becoming just like a native animal, which I don't think is possible, obviously, as they're not from there, but quickly, they're just established, and I don't think we're ever going to be able to do anything about it. I don't think there's going to be enough trapping and hunting on Earth that could actually eradicate that issue that they have in Florida. And this bill is not going to do that. This bill is doing nothing but taking away animals that people love and care about and they cherish, and destroying lives. It really is. And it's also destroying some businesses. There are Tegu breeders there and iguana breeders. And you know what? That's just ruining a whole bunch of businesses. So this law, this bill that they're trying to pass is absolutely pointless, because it's not going to eradicate the issue what they're trying to focus on, which is the invasive species in the wild. It's not going to take care of that. So, how do we take care of an invasive species if we don't ever think that an invasive species can be eradicated? I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I don't do a lot of field work like that. It's not my expertise. I have no idea. What I would like to see more focus of, because we're spending a lot of time trying to figure out how to eradicate the species, I would like to see more focus put towards how do we try to save the existing native species to that area, and actually revive them, and maybe control. Yes, we got the hunters who are out there hunting down the Burmese and the iguanas and tegus and all that for meat, so that will help keep the population somewhat under control. So how do we go ahead and save the current native species that are at risk there? That's the issue, is that these invasive species have gotten out, these snakes, and are really messing with the native species of Florida. So how do we preserve and conserve, should I say, the native species of Florida, and spend more time focusing on that and less trying to maybe eradicate an invasive species that is likely to never be eradicated? I don't know much about it, but I definitely don't think this bill is going to help anything. I actually know this bill is not going to help anything. It's not going to help that invasive species thing, and I hope that there are a lot of people who are going to go there really pushing that fact, because it's all illogical. This whole bill is illogical, and if we start having illogical bills like this passed in Florida, then more illogical bills like that are going to pass to other states like Oregon, like now, where, like you said, where if it can't survive, it's good to go. But if something like this would pass, all of a sudden we could start banning all exotic animals, and I could literally lose all of my animals because none of my animals are native to here. And even if none of them would actually survive, if they were to get out of this house right now and go outside and stay out there for overnight or 2 nights, they'd be dead because it's getting cold out there. It gets freezing here. This is not the climate for them. None of my animals would walk out of this door and survive, except for maybe Sarabi, my alligator lizard. You know, she'd probably figure it out. She did come from the wild here in the Pacific Northwest, so she could probably figure it out. But the rest of these guys are not meant to withstand this level of cold and not meant to withstand this climate. They wouldn't survive. But because of an illogical bill passed in one state, then that same illogical bill passing is likely to happen here and other places. So this is why it's so important for us. This is why it's important for us to do our part, spread knowledge, continue to educate people. I think, you know, people. I think Brian Barczyk said it best in his video. People protect what they understand, you know, and if we can get more people on board with understanding these animals and finding respect for these animals, then there are more people who will be on board with protecting these animals. So we got to all do our part. We got to get people over their fears. We got to get people understanding these animals are magnificent and they have a purpose. We got to get people less afraid of them and more willing to protect them, even if they won't really want anything to do with them handling and touching wise. They just have to understand and appreciate the magnificentness of these animals and why they're so valid. And once they are understanding of it, then less fearful of it, then they will be more willing to protect it. And I really liked when Brian said that. That really rung a bell with me. So I'm really all about that as well. But yeah, I don't know really much more to say about it. This is a rough situation, and I'm really feeling for those people in Florida. And I really hope that everybody who's gonna go to that meeting just like hammers it in and like puts out all that knowledge, because there are people who've been taking care of these animals and bringing these animals for years that are gonna be there, like really speaking on behalf and like dropping some knowledge on these people. And I'm really hoping that many of them walk away just mind blown and on a whole different level of life when it comes to these animals. And so that bill doesn't pass, but not just as that bill doesn't pass, but then those people walk away with this whole new mindset, and that will possibly spread on to other people, and it'll be great, and it all benefits us in this hobby, in this community. So I'm beginning to ramble now, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up this video. But I hope you're all to this, and I hope you guys all appreciate this, and I hope you all take your time to spread this knowledge as best as you can. So you take care, love yourselves, love your loved ones, love your reptiles, and you guys keep spreading those herbs.